And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest episode of the Sling'N podcast. I'm TJ.
You don't tell me what to do. I'll go live when I want to go live.
Well, we're going live.
No, I'm protesting.
Okay, Kent, are you ready to go live now?
And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to the Sling'N podcast. That's TJ, and I'm Kent. He just made me swallow some steak fat, so I thought I would fuck with him a little bit.
Well, you got it. Dude, there's a countdown timer for a reason. It keeps us honest.
I can't count. Hi, everybody. Look
Hi.
who's here tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So we got a good show in front of us.
Yeah, we do.
It strikes me as like we've done like 5 or 6 bad shows in our lives. And even on those, we're like, hey, we got a good show tonight. And we fucked them all up. This time. So we got the professionals in the house. We got Mr. Tim Herron from Tim Herron Shooting. Hello.
Hey, guys. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
Thank you for coming back. And we got Zach Cox from Apache Solutions.
You said professionals. I don't know.
I meant me, Tim, and
Yeah. I figured. You talking about messing the podcast up, man. You invited me on here. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the stated purpose of tonight is 2 things. First, we're going to talk about the class that I hosted of Tim's that was just here in Lewisberry like 2 weeks ago. Zach and I are both students in that class, so we have some good perspective on Tim's 2-day practical performance class, what might have changed, what might have stayed the same since last year. Then we're going to talk about the upcoming instructor class that Timmy is bringing to Central PA that Nate Carr will be at, because I see Nate Carr on the show. So, Nate, if you beat Boop, it'd be awesome if you could come. That is at the end of October. So, first things first, let's go around the horn. Mr. TJ, it's been a whole week. How you doing?
It has been a whole week. I've been fantastic. Been amping up the training, doing 2-a-days when I'm in the gym. Getting ready for November, so it's going to be a good time. Good show, Tater. Actually, I've got a seminar this weekend with a very highly decorated jiu-jitsu professional that I'm really looking forward to. I think it's going to be a good time.
Who is it? Who's coming?
He goes by Cyborg.
Okay.
Yeah, for the life of me, I cannot remember his damn first name. But he's on Instagram and various social media platforms as at Cyborg BJJ.
Is Cyborg his American Gladiator's name?
Sure. Well, you take one look at the guy and you'll understand. But it's Cyborg Abreu, ADCC champion, no gi, has his own gym, runs Fight Sports. That's his claim to fame for his company. But an absolute monster. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but if you've started watching like UFC or even Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you'll notice that there's a lot of the bigger names are a lot of the smaller fellas. Folks that like maybe Tim's size, the 140 to 160 pound, 170 pound weight class. Those guys move really, really quick, and it's a very call it a dazzling performance. It's very acrobatic. Lots of flipping, lots of spins. It's very entertaining to watch. But I don't get an opportunity to train with those guys so much, mostly because like we move differently. I'm 200 plus pounds. So whenever I get an opportunity to train with a guy of Cyborg's caliber, I want to take that opportunity because he's a heavyweight guy.
Sure.
Built like a brick shit house, and I want to learn a few things from him. I will say though, to my own gym's credit, I am surrounded by multiple, multi-time world champions that are of my weight class. But it's always good to branch out and see some guys that are at the international level or the world level and get to work with them and learn some new perspectives.
Dynamite comes in small packages.
That it does.
I like that. That's a good comment.
Oh, that's right. I switch over to the comments page there. I see Young is with us. Hi,
Yep.
Young. And Nate Carr. Oh, and Sam.
Sam DeSimone too.
Excellent.
The usual motley crew.
That's right.
But Kent, dude, you've been super. So, folks, for those of you that have not been necessarily paying attention, Kent and I's day jobs, our professional lives, our personal lives has been absolutely taken off in very, very good ways. But we haven't really had an opportunity to talk every day on the phone as much as we used to. Long distance relationships are hard, folks. What can I say? But Kent, what's been new with you, dude?
I don't even it hurts so bad that we're actually catching up on a podcast. That's not how this is supposed to work. But no shit.
I know I'm supposed to expect or know what you're going to say before we get into these things. But, YOLO.
Right. No, man. Lots of teaching, lots of SDI work recently. The course loads kind of jumped up there. The day job is just banana pants right now. And traveling. We're headed to North Carolina in T-minus 2.5, 3 days and counting, down to Zach and the gang to teach defensive pistol metrics. So that's kind of consuming my time right now. That's gonna be a fun one. We have a full class. We have 16 slots available and we have 16 seats. Ain't no more room on the range. So that's when you know you're doing it right. The last one, Zach went and wrangled me one more. We were at 15, and Zach just jumped in and said, "Hell yeah, I should take this phone call live." This is, I won't say who. That'd be funny. You wanna mess with some Apache alumni live?
Do it.
I don't think I do. He might actually.
Let's not do it on air.
Anyway, the timing is interesting. He's probably calling me trying to see if he can get into the class, and nope, that shit sold out. So that's what happened.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
There was only 2 more spots. I didn't know you sold another. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. We done. It's going to be a full 4-inch. Justin and I are coming on down there. We're going to have a good time.
Justin.
But this class is especially fun because we're bringing the families together. We're bringing Miss Sophie and Mr. James down there and gonna let them meet the Apache children. And Zach can babysit. That'll be fun. Right.
You definitely want me to babysit.
I don't know, man. James come back to you with a faux hawk.
I'm really good with kids, so they'd probably have the time of their lives.
James
we both would.
like Zach. They do.
He does.
They do.
Oh yeah.
He's cool. Cool kid.
Him too. Speaking of people with crazy lives, Tim and I have had a discussion over the past week. And we have decided that Scott Jedlinski is buying a bus for all the firearms instructors. And Tim is going to get to ride it around because he's not allowed on airplanes anymore.
That'd be great. You not have to fly. Yeah, we just do like the magical mystery tour or something like that, right?
Wait, is that humor or are you really not allowed? Or did you end up on the no-fly list, Tim?
What's that?
Did you end up on the no-fly list or is Ken just
No.
Okay.
It's just air travel has just been a pain in the ass since, a lot of the COVID restrictions have been lifted on things. So I kind of make it a joke, but I'm really not joking when I actually say I miss COVID travel. I miss the fact when I could go to an airport and it was me and maybe 11 other souls, and I could get on a plane and it would be me and 3 other people. Yeah, it's just so. Now that everything is open back up, I mean, the airports are I honestly, in the last 3 years of doing this full time, I know last year just obviously just happened and things have been lifted, but I don't remember airports being as full as they are now, even 2 years ago.
Really? So it's everybody got this bug to start traveling all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And everyone's trying to catch up for the last year and a half of travel that they missed all at once.
It's gotta be. No, I don't mind having planes full of people, right? I mean, duh. I mean, that's in an airline's best interest, right? If they got 175 seats, they want 175, passengers for those seats. I totally get that. And I'm used to flying, on full planes, but I'm not used to flying on full planes with people that have absolutely zero patience. So it makes air travel, it makes travel to and from or in and out of airports. It makes travel, from airports to in and out of rental agencies where just nobody has any patience at all. And everybody is on their best asshole behavior, which is just horrible. So, I mean, it just you're really seeing the worst of everybody every single day that I travel. And that's one of the things that just, man, it sucks. It kind of sucks the fun out of it. I mean,
yeah, I've got to travel.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I love to travel. I love it. I really do. I love the fact that getting on a plane, honestly, is like obviously like the second best thing to if time travel existed. Seriously. I mean, fucking think about it, right? Like I can leave Pennsylvania at like 10 a.m. in the morning, right? And fly, it's like 4.5 hour flight or whatever, and land in New Mexico and be home. And so if I left at 10 a.m., I'm home at like noon though. Right. So it's like I time traveled like 2 hours. When you start thinking about that. Or you think about the fact that
I think the same way. Like
just a day ago, I was 4,500 miles away in, let's say, Fairbanks, Alaska. And here I am today. I'm in Dallas, Texas. And tomorrow I'm going to be in, it could be like in Washington, D.C. You know what I mean? It's just like that. To me, like that never stops being fun.
The next time a couple of rednecks from North Carolina say, "Hey boys, watch this," don't be so quick to cast shade, folks. That's all I'm saying.
That's right.
Hey man.
Brother. But I mean, honestly, and so I still enjoy travel. I still enjoy like the hustle and bustle and jet setting and, like all of that. What I don't enjoy are people, like I said, that are like on asshole duty.
No, you could have stopped at people. We would have known exactly what you meant.
I'm tired of people. I'm tired of people that are not my people.
Right. I love people that are my people. I'm getting so much hope because I actually have to travel this weekend to go out of town for a week. And I'm going to sunny Southern California. And oh God, I'm not looking forward to it now. Thank you.
No, like I said, I mean, the travel is fine. The people make it a pain in the ass. And a lot of it too, though, is because the workforce is like especially the airline workforce is still not at 100%. Yet the airlines are still trying to run it like 100% logistically, like they did, 13, 14, 15 months ago. And shit just ain't working out, man. You got airlines that are canceling flights. They can't fill flights. They forgot that, a connection from, say, Sacramento to Dallas meant that you were going to drop people off from Sacramento to pick people up in Dallas that were going to be from all over other flights, to give themselves enough time to then catch the rest of those people to put them on, the big tube in the sky to then put them someplace else that everybody wants to go to. So like missed flights are a big thing right now. Canceled flights are a big thing. Delays, just logistic delays between airlines is just a pain in the ass. Like I said, it's like everybody just stopped flying, and the airline companies stopped owning companies for like 18 months. And it's like they came back and instead of them rerunning the company again, it's like they gave them back to their 7-year-old kids and said, here you go. Here's an airline to run. Do this.
Everyone got used to the work from home with Zoom meetings. They're just like, nah, Junior, you can handle it.
Right.
It's a multi-billion-dollar organization. You can handle it. You're fine. You're fine. That's good stuff, man.
Interesting you say people are in asshole mode. I just had this conversation with a coworker. I was like, what is going on with you? People are just hot under the collar about shit that, I mean, I don't care about much except for my family and guns and freedom and making enough money to support all that. But
right.
Like, damn, dude, people are getting hot over like the littlest little things. I just
trivial shit.
And I'm in my professional life, as I'm sure you can imagine, I'm the same bumbling silly pants guy that I am everywhere else in the world. So I just like come beepsy boopsy and into a meeting, just all happy. I'm like, good morning. And everybody's like, rawr, rawr.
We hate you, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
I said, we hate you, Ken.
What? Meanwhile, Zach's over there like smoking a cigarette, drinking a coffee, hating life.
That's the complete opposite.
Don't hate life, Zach. No, that's exactly what I'm talking about, though. All four of us are just like relaxed, chill, everyday people who enjoy life. And there's just some Karen who's just losing her shit. Like at this point, the amount of times that Tim's flights have been fucked up, he should be at, I don't know, Southwest or American or wherever, like outside the corporate office with a sign, just losing his mind. And what's he do? He goes up on social media and goes, "You guys ain't gonna believe this shit."
Yeah.
And he's got that big old smile on his face, and he's like, "My guns are in Texas, I'm in Utah, and my class is in PA. When those three triangles come together, we're gonna have a fun weekend. Till then, I don't know what to do."
You know, that speaks to the character of Tim and Zach, and frankly, a lot of the other guests that we've had on the show, and why we're able to keep doing what we're doing, and why we enjoy doing this show. So, awesome.
People with blood pressure issues need to stop.
Yeah. So, Zach, it's been a hot minute since we've had you on the show, too. So why don't you give us an update on how things are going with you? How's Apache doing? What do you guys got coming up? And we'll get into the topic.
Be good, man. I've been working a lot, getting a lot of stuff done with my business and all that, and just kind of changing life up, trying to finally transition out of that landscaping business, do more of the training stuff. Apache's doing great. Recently started doing some workshops, clinic type things that have went really well. The last one we did, and Tim did that, and I helped AI or helped out with that. It was really cool. It was on recoil management, and it was awesome. So it was like a 2-hour workshop kind of thing. So it's cool. We started doing a little things differently. Got a lot coming down the line. Yeah, a lot of exciting things, but been doing good, working a lot, farming and 100 acres and cows and a lot of things happening. But yeah, doing good. But,
so something people don't know about Zach is in his day job. TJ and I don't talk so much about our day jobs because reasons, but Zach's got a big old family farm down there. And when Zach comes to visit, Zach brings part of a cow. And I don't mean a steak. I mean like a hunk of steak. Actually, you probably brought that hunk of steak I was eating earlier. You bring like
have you been eating it?
Beef. What's that?
Have you been eating it?
Oh, heck yeah.
Good.
It's probably what he just finished choking down before we went live.
It could have been.
Yeah, I was eating steak until like 8:59:30. And I believe it was one of yours. But I mean, dude, farming's 100-hour a week job.
I think that was Betty.
He names his steaks, my man.
The Rosie or Betty. It was one of the two.
What you know what's fucked up is I believe you.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely believe that
I know exactly which cow that. I think it was Black Betty.
Blam.
Song. Yep.
He's got to add the blam. So let's see. In the chat right now, Sam D. Simone wants to know why there's a one-day class at Roll Call 911 in Scranton.
Well, there's not that there. Why is there a class? There is a one-day class. So
why only one day? I'm sorry, you missed part of the conversation.
So the guys there, or the guy that Sam got me in touch with, there at Roll Call Indoor Range there in Scranton, wanted a class to basically kind of an introduction to like me class to be, that maybe for folks that aren't necessarily ready for like moving and shooting or running and gunning or whatever else you want to kind of, put into it, and wanted something like, what's the next step for me, as a shooter, what would be the next step for me to, to like progress or to improve as a shooter. So I've developed a one-day course, it's a lot of kind of what my TD1 is of my 2-day class. So, and it's a course that I've kind of nicknamed or named Foundations in Diagnostics. So it is just about like this kind of like what needs to be your standard of like foundational shooting, how to grip the gun properly, how to call shots, how to utilize the sights or, utilize aiming a different way, how to stay target focused, the different levels of focus, things like that. So like I said, it's primarily kind of like what my day one class is of my 2-day class, but just kind of maybe a couple of things either added in or kind of changed around, to add a little bit more diagnostic value to folks they're kind of new to either self-diagnostics or new to, kind of like, again, looking for just that next step, up the ladder of progress for their shooting. So I taught this same class down in Homestead, Florida, back in March or April of this year too. And it was awesome. I mean, it was awesome so well. Obviously, that class was sold out. And before I could even get on a plane to go home, we already had a 2-day course scheduled before I left there for the same time next year too. So those guys, a lot of those guys were kind of apprehensive, like, I'm not a competition shooter. I don't see. And it's like, dude, this is not a competition class. I mean, it's got a lot of elements for competition because that's my wheelhouse, right? That's where I draw like my knowledge from. But it doesn't mean that this stuff like, hey, you must have a belt with 5 mag pouches, and you must have, a wicked cool $3,000, super, Blast 5,000 pistol in order to do this. Like, this is all techniques and skills and knowledge that are going to allow you to be a better decision maker behind a gun. So, but again, there's always skeptics in class. So I think the 1-day class is like a really good way to get people like to understand like me, understand my teaching, understand the value of what I bring to the table. And then of course, in a 1-day class, you leave them wanting more, right? So at the end of a 1-day class, they're like, holy cow, that was awesome. I got to have more of that. When can we have you back? And when can we do a full 2-day course? And it's like, I told you. But the 1-day course, especially in this age with ammo being so hard to get, that's the big draw is I can run a few more folks in this 1-day course and still give the value of individualized feedback to each student. But instead of having a total of 14, I do open it to 2 more people for a total of 16 students. So I can run 2 relays of 8 students on a line at a time. So it's still basically an 8-to-1 instructor-student ratio, student-instructor ratio, which is great because, again, I get to have like eyes and hands on each individual person. And there's no downtime. The thing also about there not being any downtime though, too, is like the day 2, right? There's a lot, those that have taken my class know there is a ton of visualized instruction and a ton of time I spend with each person. So that having everybody kind of on the line so they can all focus together on things. So if I'm talking to Zach about something, Kent can be listening in right there and be like, oh yeah, and be dry firing that while I'm working with Zach or taking notes or whatnot, which is great. No, Sam, the roll call class is actually capped at 16 for that 1-day class. But anyway, so like with 16 on it, and then of course then too, obviously it's not a $475 to $500 class. It's about a $275 to $300 class. Right. And the ammo requirements for it, instead of being 500 to 600 rounds for 2 days, is only 250, 300 rounds. So 300 rounds is kind of what I suggest folks to bring. And it's going to be, some of the most valuable 300 rounds of shooting that you've ever done in all of your training. So yeah, looking forward to doing more of these 1-day classes to kind of get more people in classes and kind of let them see like what my training style is, kind of what my paradigm is, and kind of what I can bring to the training.
Awesome, man. I just want to let you know you're lagging in and out. So you're doing the slow down, start up.
My apologies.
No, you're good. I just want to let you know you might drop out, and if you do, we'll just keep on keeping on until you pop.
So I'll jump back in.
Yep. So
what happens when you got the farm internet out here in the middle of absolute nowhere, New Mexico.
Yeah, you and Zach are talking on 2 strings with tin cans attached.
I hear him just fine.
Pretty much.
Yep. So very cool. Well, what we're here to do tonight is we're here to do 2 things. We're here to AAR the class that we just had done. So we'll do that first. And then we're here to talk about what people can expect as differences between the first and the second class. Zach here will be in the instructor class as well. Very, very, very much just like what you just said, right? Like the minute you leave them wanting more. Zach signed up for the instructor class at like 8 a.m. the next morning. He was like Monday morning. He's like, beep, beep, boop, I'm coming. I'm like, oh, look, here comes Zach.
Awesome.
So
yeah, I think Zach's just wanting more opportunities to fill in his quote books.
Yeah. He's got
his little one-liners that he gets. Yeah.
Yep.
I actually do have some one-liners.
Yeah, we know. That's
Write
fine.
those down.
We're gonna let you hit some of those one-liners here in a minute.
I did write those
So
down.
real quick, one last thing, one final admin note before we get into tonight's discussion. Folks, as you know, as part of the show, we do often come up with a customized T-shirt that is inspired by our guests. However, Tim has been on the show several times. He has already made a charity of choice. So, Tim, if you want to remind everybody of that charity, please.
What is that charity? I can't even remember what that charity is.
I believe it was
I'm
the second.
sorry.
I believe it was the Second Amendment Foundation, if I remember correctly.
I think you're right.
No, it was the Oompa Loompa Awareness Fund.
All right, now you're just being racist, Kent. We can't allow that on the show.
Yeah,
But
Oompa Loompa Awareness Fund. Never mind. It was a short joke, and it was funny. It wasn't as funny as it could have been. Fuck off.
yeah, fair enough. But folks, Tim already does have a shirt, so we want to make sure we're pushing Tim's shirt. Once again, proceeds from all sales of the T-shirts that we design and post up on our Teespring store. All go to charity. We don't take a dime from it. The intent is to collect all the money at the end of the year and then donate it to the respective charities that our guests have chosen. The link for Tim's shirt, Train Like a Champ, is in the description, or actually in the comments right now, and it will end up in the description of this podcast after the show. So with that, Kent, take it away, buddy.
Awesome. So let's first just go over and the reason Zach is here is, well, number one, we love him. But number two, I might be accused of AARing these things a little biasedly. All right. So just hearing me talk about my friends in their classes can get a little old. So it's nice to bring in some perspective from outside. Now, Zach's a friend too. So I hate to tell you this, but the people that do this together and continue to enjoy it are all like-minded, and we all become friends eventually. So it's going to be awful effing hard to find somebody who doesn't really enjoy Tim and his company, who's also going to be able to AAR the class for you. There's not like some dude out there who's like, I fucking hate that guy. Well, God damn it, he's a good teacher. Like, that just isn't going to be a thing here.
There might be other guys that don't like him.
I don't know. Fuck them. But like, my point being, this circle is pretty close as it is. There's not many degrees of separation out there. So to try to find a truly unbiased source is just not a thing. I bring this up specifically because it was brought to my attention just this past week by a student. They're like, hey, from the outside, this could appear to all be self-serving. And
well, no shit. It's a podcast named after shit we like to do.
Yeah,
of course it's self-serving.
Point though being, Zach and I never prepare for anything at all.
We don't prepare for anything. We're 84 episodes into it.
That's not necessarily true.
Yeah, Zach's over there like, I got a notebook. I did good journalism. They're gonna let me journalize. Like,
no, but to that point though, one of the reasons that we do appreciate Zach's attendance to these shows is he has actually given very modest but constructive criticism, and I've heard him do so on multiple occasions, despite even the positive things that he had to say and the generalized positive experiences that he's had with those instructors. So no pressure, Zach.
Right. All that to say, this is not a promo, and it's not a jerking off fest. The ideal here would be for somebody to hear this and either go, oh, I really want to take this training because I want more. That's cool. Or maybe it resonates with them and they don't realize it, and it spurs them on to doing further research in their shooting. Mm-hmm. And maybe that pushes them further down the path. And maybe they end up in one of our classes, any one of the three of us teaching. Maybe they don't. Maybe they end up in somebody else's class, but it's because what they heard here tonight kind of spurred them forward. And that would be a pretty cool outcome too. So anyway, Zach, let me hit you with a couple questions. Right. First, this was your second exposure ever to Tim in a professional setting, right? You had a block of his at Range Master, is that right?
Well, I didn't. I kind of did, but me and Doc sat in on one of his classes. We had an open time, open block, and we actually sat in and watched. We didn't get to shoot, and we sat in on his class. I think it was Saturday. Mm-hmm. So that was the first time I've ever been around him and heard anything of what he said. So this was the real first time I've ever taken a class from him
Okay,
a
fair
couple
enough.
weeks ago.
And what was it about this class, other than me being like, "Hey, bro, take this class"? What was it about this particular class that appealed to you? Why did you want to take Tim's class in the first place?
Well, first off, I wanted to see you, of course. I mean, who wouldn't want to stay with Ken Howard? But also, I've been wanting to take class from Tim, and it was because of what he said and how he said it at TACCon. Um, it was really good, very deliberate with how he said things and what he said. And I don't mean this rude or anything, but I was like, I'm impressed. I would like to learn more. And I did. And that it was intriguing, and I'm really, really glad I took the class.
Awesome.
Totally worth it.
So, Tim and his content are considerably. We might as well just go right at the heart of this and go at it. Tim's content is different than that of which you've taken previously, and yet also pretty effing similar at the end of the day, which kind of crescendos to my overall point, which is this whole gamer versus tactical shit really needs to stop, because I personally believe that the similarities way outweigh the differences. But that being said, Tim is the first high-level competitor that you've trained with in a professional setting. Is that a fair statement, or did I miss something?
Yeah, I mean, at TACCon, I took a 4-hour block from Jedi and a couple other people. There was a bunch of people I took. I got lucky at TACCon. But realistically, first class I've ever done, yes.
Sure.
That
You've been
caliber, yeah.
exposed previously to me. You've been exposed previously to Phil Groff. You've had
You've exposed yourself to me?
Shut up. You've had handgun combatives methodology. You've had a lot of what I would call defensive-minded firearms training previously.
Yeah, most all of my stuff has always been self-defense.
Sure.
It's always been actually 100% self-defense. It's all been about how to protect myself, how to defend my friends, family, but myself, and conceal carry, and how to move that way, how to act that way, how to think that way. And this was the first class that was more about performance and creeping into the competitive side, which to prove your point, it's very, very similar. And I learned a lot of things this week or that weekend that applies so well to conceal carry, like transitions, even small stuff, which was huge, but they're smaller. Most people don't think about is being deliberate. It's not about all the crap and the mistakes. It's about practicing with a purpose. It's being deliberate. It's so many things. I could name 100 things, but it really, people that say that competition and self-defense are so far away from each other really haven't done enough training. They're very similar. Now they are different, and they both have their aspects and their good and bads to both, but they line up very well with each other.
So
And
I'm
it was really
curious.
cool to see.
I'm curious. This is a mental exercise. Would it be fair to say that of the differences, minute though they may be, primarily can be found within maybe the mindset and the approach to what you're doing at any given time, whereas the skill set is where the heaviest blend is because you're employing a firearm in an efficient, intentional manner?
I would say mindset is a huge thing with it. Because if you're just wanting to do competition, you're going to take a class and you're going to be like, okay, cool. I don't really carry a gun. I don't care about it. And you're not going to think about it. Or you carry a gun, you're like, I don't want to shoot competition. Why would I take a competition class or even a performance class? And it's one of those that people don't understand for the most part. I didn't. That they're one and the same. And getting better at a firearm that you carry daily is just as important as getting better at a firearm you carry once every other weekend when you compete. and getting better at a firearm, the basics, the fundamentals, they all apply, and we're constantly working on them, but they're so crucial and so important to see all the different sides and learn and train from different people. And it's all about mindset. I think you're right on that. Because if you don't have the mindset to basically branch out, try new things, test those things, it's hard to get out of your little box. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And we're all guilty of a couple key sins. One of them being that we love to practice the things we're already good at.
Sure.
Right? Every single one of us is guilty at that. It's easy for Tim because motherfucker's good at everything. That's fine. I know. It's funnier to tell you that because then you'll sit there and shake your head and you'll go, you'll turn this shit off and you'll go dry fire for another hour because you'd be mad that I even said it. I know.
Yep.
I know. But my point being is like me exposing my own mindset to guys like Tim is all about having a dude write me an email afterwards and call me out on my shit. And it's like, oh, I thought I was there. Like I thought I had that piece, but apparently I doesn't, right? It's good for you. You have to get outside your comfort zone. And so if you're of the mindset of like that we're carrying guns for realsies and this is about more than just a match, and you look at it that way, you can very easily get lulled into the way that is typically conventionally taught. There's nothing wrong with it to a degree. Well, there are some actual things wrong with the way it's conventionally taught, but for the most part, hey man, we end up on a square flat range doing similar kinds of drills on similar kinds of metrics, similar kinds of targets. Everybody's got their own spiel or their own spin, but at the end of the day, you point the thing at the thing, you press the thing, and you hit it or you don't. Cool. And then you got somebody like Tim going, get lower, motherfucker. And I'm like, I thought I was. And he's like, no, you're just doing it stupider, but you still ain't lower. Get lower. Bring your chin down. Widen your base.
I really wish that we would have met beforehand because then I could say that Tim stole that from me because, damn it, I know for sure that level of motivation worked for you.
No, it does. It does. But it's interesting in that the things that you for a guy like myself, I compete for fun with my friends to get better with a gun. But I don't compete at the level that a guy like Tim would, where Tim's like, dude, I'm gonna be one of the best 20 dudes in the world with this thing in my hand. Like and that, in case for those of you playing the home game, that is where Tim's at. Tim's working on like world status of pistol skill.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sucking the guy off. He's literally, that's where he's at. So when you talk to somebody who competes at that level and they push nuances, that's no different than talking to Tom Brady about a fucking football pass. There's the, hey, do I throw a football around in my backyard? And then there's Brady who I don't even know what he could say, but he could probably talk for 2 hours about throwing a football. And some guys, I don't know, just do the thing with the thing. So it's interesting when you break down competitive type shooting classes, there's a couple key differences. One being that you actually do a little competing in a competitive type shooting class, God forbid. That's pretty cool. Like man-on-man stuff, you go up against each other, you see where you end up. The other thing that you do a lot is you compete against yourself. So, Zach, let me ask you my second preloaded question for you that you didn't know was coming, which was, how did you feel about your track and your progression? You got to shoot that same stage 3 separate times. Right? Yeah. Look at his face.
Yeah.
So tell me about how that feels. You probably know your numbers and I've long since forgotten where you started and where you ended, but I know you made strides just over 3 attempts at the same thing. So what did you think of that? And have you ever actually been run through a stage like that in a training environment?
So I've never competed in anything really. I've just done like me and Tim just having a shoot off or something like that at Apache. I mean, it's just fun stuff. Never been in a competition. I've done like, I think 1-2 gun competition. That was just screwing around and fun. And then I did TacCon. That was the first real kind of competition I've ever done. So I'm all self-defense. So when I went into it, I even had a conversation with you before we started, and I was like, how should I run the stage? And I was like, nope, don't tell me, because I'm going to run this how I would want to and how I've been trained to. And so when I ran it self-defense, and I was pieing around corners. I was like, and creeping around corners, and I was shooting targets like I was fighting. And I fought the hell out of that stage, and it was a lot of fun. But then I was second person to go. I watched the first guy go. I was like, God, I'm not going to do anything like that, but okay. And I wanted to do that on purpose the first time, because I was like, I really want to do it my way and how I've been taught and how I've been trained, just to show the drastic difference of the worlds that I am entering into and getting to know. And so the first time I did it was self-defense. As the day went on and how things flowed with the class and how he taught things, he would teach you something here, and then here, and then here. And then when you shot the stage the second time, it was like, huh, that makes sense. And that applies. Everything he just taught you, you're using here. And so I sped up on my times. I shot differently. I did things differently than the self-defense world. By the end of the second day, everything he taught in the 2 days was perfectly blended and perfectly molded together to teach you how to do that stage and how to do things differently, how to compete, how to think, how to call your own shots, 100 things. And I cut my time in half. My first time was 30 something seconds. And then I think my second time was 16 seconds. And I just flowed better. And that was one of the biggest things I learned all weekend, was flowing and fluidity. And yeah, it was awesome.
Very cool. So not many 2-day national level training classes will start cold turkey with like, all right, guys, we're going to run a stage. Right? Like where else? Honestly,
I'm not panicked.
Right? Not very many places do you see that. So
Zach's hyperventilated into his drop pouch on his
For real. I was like, no, wait, guys, I haven't learned anything yet.
Right. So most of these classes, like they'll either start with like, all right, guys, let's get some dry fire going in the morning. Make sure those draw strokes are safe. Let's talk a little bit about our gun handling. Let's do the funda principles. Let's this or let's that. Timmy's like, good morning. Beep. Do that. Like, no. Now would be good.
Tim, please tell me you've named the stage, like it's got a name like Don't Panic.
Don't No, I've not, but I understand why everybody has like some apprehension to just starting out with a stage, or like are feeling super panicked when they're in a class. But the thing that like to me, and I hope everybody here is able to pick up on that, like think about how much you train even for, hopefully something that never happens in your life, right? Which is the judicious and defensive use of your life, or defense of your life with a firearm. We're all preparing for what is, likely going to be the worst freaking day of our life, and all the preparation in the world does not help a bit if you are not prepared to perform or execute cold, right? So it does me no good to try to teach you what cold performance or what a cold metric even looks like. Like if I don't give you a taste of like, hey, this is coming, and I'm still giving you 5 minutes to like, to kind of sort out, okay, this is an entire stage. There's, some things I have to remember. There's some things I have to kind of calculate here a little bit, but I mean, and everybody says, oh, well, there's no stage walkthroughs in a gunfight. There's no stage walkthroughs. There's no course preparation. And I wholeheartedly effing disagree with this. And here's my thoughts on that. Everything that we're told tactically in a defensive class or a defensive environment, right, is to be 100% situationally aware. This is why when we go to restaurants, we're taught, to sit with our back against the wall with our face and our eyes being able to look towards the door, to recognize your exits, recognize your windows, recognize your points of entry, right? Be spotting that person that walks through the door that seems a little, that seems a little shady. Basically, we're taught our entire lives, as far as from a different context, tactics. And those tactics, I don't give a shit who you are or what you say about anything. You're taught to judge and stereotype everybody and everything.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So don't give me any bullshit whatsoever, ever again. You are forbidden to open your mouth and ever speak of the facets that competition shooting is different than defensive shooting and tactics, because competition shooting, you get to do a stage walkthrough. Motherfucker, you should have been doing, excuse my language, but motherfucker, you should have been doing that stage walkthrough when you walked into that restaurant, or when you walked into that Walmart, or when you walked into that grocery store, or when you sat down at that movie theater. Stage walkthrough happened the moment you woke up that morning and you decided that, hey, I may get in a gunfight today. I have to put all my stuff on, whether that also be first aid stuff, right? Yeah. We're all told too. Anytime that you put your individual first aid kit on, right, you are planning for what could potentially be the worst day of either your life. With a first aid kit, you're also planning on what could be possibly the worst day of someone else's life, and you want to be there to help them. So you're always planning, you're always thinking, you're always calculating. What's the difference? There isn't one.
Drop.
Right? So if there isn't really one, and everybody wants to talk about cold level performance, then then you've got no ground to stand on whatsoever when you come to my class. And the very first thing I want you to do is I want to see your cold level of performance. What is Zach? What is Kent capable of executing right now? Ready? Stand by. You're in it. You're in it for real. That's why I do a cold run for an assessment in the morning, is because if I can assess what your cold level of execution is and your cold level of performance is, I immediately have like a scrolling book, right, of information at my disposal to be able to share with you on any preconceived notions you might have had about how badass you thought you were, or actually about how badass and confident you likely are, but didn't realize you were, based on cold level of performance. That's why I do it. I think that's why it's the most important thing to do when you practice, right? A lot of people go to the range and they practice, just like Kent said, the same thing that they do all the time because it's the shit that they're good at, right? Nobody wants to practice the stuff they're bad at. Why? Well, because generally if it's something that you're bad at, you do not log or keep record of things that you do bad. So therefore you have no means or no purpose or no logbook of being able to perform or improve it. You've got to keep a cold log on everything. That's the number one ingredient of purposeful practice. Logging everything, having a metric for everything so that you've got a cold comparison for the next time that you revisit, whether it be a drill, whether it be a defensive drill, whether it be a competition drill. Metrics are how we measure success.
Hell yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna piggyback slightly and I'm gonna add one more layer to that. Because what Tim just talked about was real world defensive carry, use of a firearm in public. And the argument comes around that you don't get a stage plan in public, and Tim just kind of did a very good job of refuting that. Now let's talk about my own house and my own property. You're telling me I can't possibly have a stage plan for my own house? I know where the fucking doors are. I know where the windows are. I know where the weak points are. If I don't, then I'm not as sheepdoggy as I think I am, bro.
Nope. Not to interrupt you, right? You also know which doors stick. You know which windows may or may not open. You know which doorknobs in your house might give you a little bit of a problem. You know where every tripping hazard point might be between transitions between carpet and hard floors. Everybody does, right? Every single person on this panel of four of us right now could literally either close our eyes or turn off every goddamn light in our house at pitch black darkness, right? And at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, everybody is capable of getting up out of their bed and going to the refrigerator and getting a cold glass of water, right? Everybody here is capable of that. That comes from, here it comes, stage planning.
Right.
This comes from familiarization of your surroundings, which is all stage planning is, period.
Unless you have a toddler.
Oh, yeah. And then you've got Legos everywhere. Well, you're not up to that stage yet.
In which case, all of a sudden, you step on the bedtime elephant, and it sings the bedtime song at 1:30 in the morning when you're trying to take a piss. Not like that hasn't happened to me recently, but yeah, no, but Tim's exactly right. So I can tell you that I in my own personal life have had one defensive force incident in my home that wasn't. It was one that wasn't. She was 92. She had dementia, right? I can tell you that if I didn't have a good plan in place, something really terrible could have happened to that nice lady who lives 2 houses away from me, because I knew how to approach it, and my wife and I had a plan. You can call that a stage plan, or you can call it whatever you want to call it. But I'll tell you right now, I knew right where to stand to have the best vantage point of that big, nice bay front window I have on my house. It's very easy to see who's on the other side of that window and yet be behind some point of cover from the one place in my house that it's really good to be left-handed. So worked out pretty good for me, right?
Think about all of these accidental shootings that we read about and hear about all the time on the news. 85 to 90% of those accidental shootings, even if they involve the police, are because of oops incidents, right? Or lack of preparation. That lack of preparation is the same thing as like walking up to a cold stage, right? In a USPSA or an IDPA match with no stage plan, no plan whatsoever, right? The plan is called, it shouldn't be called a plan. It's just called preparation. Every time you walk out that door with a firearm on your belt, there'll be some fucking preparation on what you're going to do if the issue arose that you had to use it. There should never be an oops or a I didn't know what to do or I panicked. Mm-hmm. That's why we train to begin with.
Yep.
100%. That's why we train to begin with.
Good deal. So I'm going to answer Doc's question. Scott Foster's on here. It says, when using the Go Fast Don't Suck targets at home, which you can't see, but they're everywhere. How far away should I stand to emulate different yardages? Well, that's pretty easy. So on those targets, there's a scaling. It says 1/3 or 1 whatever right on them. It gives you a fraction. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at the 1/3 IPSC from Go Fast Don't Suck, the target is 1/3 its original size, which means if you want to be doing, say, a 10-yard standard, if you want to be doing something at 10 yards, you should be at 3.33 yards in your basement, 1/3, right?
Exactly.
So that's
think about, right. And think about the 7 yards. Just divide the 7 by feet, right? That's 21 feet. So 21 feet, what's a third of 21 feet? 7 feet. Everybody has got 7 feet, I'm sure, in a bedroom or a hallway or a kitchen or a living room that they can stick those up to be able to emulate 7 yards distance to those targets. I shot a bit too with regards to the third scale targets. They're like, well, what do I set those up, and how far distance do I stand to them to everything, and how do I stick the targets up? In what order do I stick the targets up? I'm like, that's why you're given like 11 sheets of these different targets. They got no shoot targets, you've got hardcover targets, you've got steel targets, right? You want to be able to set them up at all sorts of different distances and all sorts of different arrays. You want to be as creative as possible with your setups so that you are no longer, and this is why I hate people. I don't want to say I hate people. I hate when people ask me like, hey, what specific drill do I work on to get good at transitions? And it's like, you just spent 2 days with me in class learning that any and all distances to the target and any and all distances of targets separated from each other are important to work on. There is no one specific drill. Did you not take notes, or did you not listen, or did you check out of that conversation that we had in class? But I get that all the time. Or get folks that obviously when I like even a 20-minute YouTube video of me basically giving away a ton of free milk, as Jedi would say, right, to people. I always get people that's like, I swear to God, it's almost like they watch the first 30 seconds and the last 45 seconds of a 20-minute, a 20-minute explanation of something to then immediately ask the question that is right there in the meat and potatoes of what it is I'm saying, to say, well, what do I work on in transitions? What drills do I use? How do I set my targets up for that? It's like, and Scott Foster, please don't think I'm picking on you. I know a lot of folks don't understand that, right? And they think that maybe there are specifics. If your training is all around specifics of every single thing that you're doing it wrong. Be creative. Set the targets up in completely different random orders. Randomize how you address each of the targets, right? So that you're more prepared to do things like transition the gun from left to right, maybe back to left, and then maybe back hard right again. Transitioning from an easy target to a difficult target. Transitioning from a very high risk target, like a no-shoot target, to a very low risk target, like a 7-yard or 3-yard open target, right? I want to get good on all of this stuff. So if setting myself up to this, like this one little like cardboard box or little shoebox of this is how I replicate my training every single time, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I would venture an argument that the drill of practicing the fundamentals of eyes before gun is the fundamental skill or drill that you should be practicing when you're wanting to practice transitions.
Right.
You talk about preparation, being the walkthrough, right? Your pre-stage walkthrough. The one thing is, and this is where people are kind of getting that confused, is just because you get to be aware of what's in front of you doesn't mean you get to set up the stage.
Sure.
Like the targets are going to be in a random location, random order, random distances. You don't get a say-so in that. So don't focus on trying to set them up and prescribe the environment to that level. Be observant of the environment and know how to adapt and approach those different situations accordingly.
Absolutely.
See, I can do this too, Kent.
Nice job.
Yes.
I contribute.
You know what? I really wish my whole shit wasn't all plugged into microphones and everywhere else. TJ won't let me do this, but if I could just handy cam this computer and walk it around my basement, you would see these little bastards stuck up in. I literally have a match. I have 5 stages stuck up down here that are all different and weird, and all of them are to focus on different skill sets. So one of the things I'm working on is the idea of throttle control between different target sizes at the same distance. So here we have like a real big silhouette and a real little, what's meant to replicate a piece of steel, and a medium-sized piece of steel, and then a bunch of partial exposure targets. Now, if you stand at, 3 yards in your basement and run those, that feels an awful lot like going from 20 yards to 5 yards on various targets.
And the other thing too is you stick them affixed to your wall. And Ken, I don't mean to interrupt you again too.
No,
you stick them on your wall, right? If you got a basement or a big room that you can move around in, why are you not? And I'm not meaning you specifically. I'm talking about the listener here that thinks that all of their the listener that believes that all of their dry fire just starts with them standing in one static space to do everything. Why are you not working on moving? Why are you not working on, 2-step draws to the left or to the right or forward or backwards, or having the gun in your hand and having to traverse your bedroom? Start on the right side of your bed and have to run around the foot of the bed and back to the other side, to the left side of the bed. Anything, right?
Yeah, that's something we encounter a lot in the gym. Coach will inevitably find out what position you suck the most at, and you start there.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't like it when somebody who weighs 100 pounds more than you has you flat on your back and is crushing your face with their arm? Okay, guess where you're starting? Shit.
Right.
Right? You got to set yourself up for failure and rise to the occasion, man.
Right.
So I would say, Kent, here's an idea for you. And for those of you playing the home game, if you happen to have some of the targets from Tim Herron shooting, have a family member or friend go in and rearrange it for you in the blind.
Oh, that's always fun too. My daughter's done that for me.
I think so. I could just see Sophie like putting those things like so many random places, like, oh, you missed one, you're dead. And it was like stuck to the back of your deer's head or something.
Now, I got to say, when I primarily run this kind of stuff, right, or when I'm dry firing, a lot of what it is I'm trying to really work on, most importantly, is getting my eyes to lead to a specific spot on the next target so that I know where to drive the sights or where to drive the dot to that next target, so that like I'm working on accuracy, I'm working on shot calling without ever having to expend a live round. So that when I go then and spend once a week or twice a week going to the range and actually live firing, my live fire all becomes about nothing more than validating all of the actual hard work, blood, sweat, and tears that I'm putting into my dry fire. Yep. So now I don't have to spend 50,000 plus rounds a year to be pretty good at something. I get to shoot 8,000 to 10,000 rounds a year to be pretty damn good at something. But because I've spent a hell of a lot more time on focused practice without all of the noise, without all of the sweat, without all of the, the sunlight and the bugs and the heat and everything else getting in the way of purposeful practice.
One thing I did was transitions, like you were talking about with those targets, is learning transitions and how I've learned the eyes follow first, but being able to, or eyes lead and then everything follows. But doing it again and just really thinking about it from a different aspect and thinking about it from the competition side. Because I've learned that 1,000 times in self-defense and all the classes I've taken. And it's not the first time I've heard it. I've heard it a bunch. But really like transitioning and the transitions in targets was crazy for me, just to hear it a different way and just to practice it a different way and do it differently. But it made sense to me even in self-defense and the whole aspect of that. And also Doc Scott Foster was talking about shot calling. Explain shot calling, because that's a whole new thing.
Hold on.
It's not new, but it's...
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead.
Wait.
My bad.
No, you jumped one step ahead. I was going to ask you to explain shot calling to see what you retain.
Dadgummit. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to let Zach.
Yes.
Give me the definite, or what you have learned now to believe what shot calling truly is.
Shot calling is, I think it's okay.
Breathe. You're among friends.
Yeah.
It's okay.
No, if I were to be honest, I think it's a lot of things. I think it's calling your shot before you shoot, calling your shot during your shooting, and calling your shot after you shoot, and then after you shoot and calling it, trusting, believing, and knowing where that shot went.
Without what?
How it landed.
Without what?
Without seeing it, without knowing it, without validation.
Without extra validation.
Yep.
That's what shot calling truly is. You're exactly right. It's and a lot of shot calling is not just visual confirmation, right? So a lot of folks will talk about like, I want to, I didn't necessarily see everything maybe I needed to see. Maybe I saw a really good sight before I pressed the trigger, but it's being able to maintain that sight picture, or as I like to call it, a movie throughout the entire like press of the trigger and the resultant bang, right, of the gun lifting and recoil. But once the gun has lifted and recoil, I should have achieved enough visual as well as physical validation. And that physical validation, a lot of shot calling is, did I feel myself jerking the gun? Did I feel myself getting like anticipatory? Did I feel my hand, like my entire strong hand, start to trigger the gun together instead of just isolate the finger? Was there anything outside of the realm of even my vision that might have caused that shot to be errant? But at the end of the day, what shot calling is not are these old grizzled defensive minded instructors that talk about for every shot you take 2 sight pictures, and for every 2 shots you take 3 sight pictures, and for every 4 you take 5. That is blatant horseshit is what that is. It's a waste of time. If I don't plan on taking more than 1 shot on a target, guess what my eyes are doing? My eyes are moving on to what's next. My eyes in the gun are not going to hover on a target that I am finished engaging. So and the reason they teach you that is they're teaching you that to validate your work through your sights. Well, motherfucker, that's what I was doing the whole time I was aiming and pressing the trigger while I was watching the sights. I don't need to revalidate it and not press the trigger. So the shot calling aspect of it is it encompasses how did the gun feel in the hands? How did it feel when you began to press the trigger? Did I press the trigger with just the appropriate finger? Did I press the trigger with the entire hand? Was I visually cognizant of the shot, like of the sights, right? What was the relationship of the front sight and the rear sight together, in their relationship to the target the moment that the gun lifted it? Or for the people that aren't living in 1911 anymore, watching your red dot, are you validating the work from the dot, or are you validating the work through looking through the dot at the target and allowing that superimposed dot to give you that information peripherally as you're pressing the trigger? If you're not seeing those things, you're not able to call the shots. This is why law enforcement have like a 33% effective hit rate. I'm telling you right now, that's why. It's because they're not validating the work through the sights at the moment that they're putting in the work. They're trying to validate it based on, well, I saw a sight picture. Remember how we talked about in class? They're just checking the list. Okay, cool. The NRA tells me that my grip is supposed to be good. Yep, my grip is good. Check. Okay, now I'm supposed to look at the sights and pay attention to sight alignment. Okay, sights are good. Check. And as soon as they mentally check that mark, then they've mentally checked out on any more attention to that particular aspect of their shooting. And that's why they miss. Because then when it comes time to trigger control, oh, okay, I know what that means. That means when I'm ready to go, send it. And then they panic the hell out of the trigger to send it and then they don't understand. Well, why the hell did I miss? Well, it missed because it's not a checklist. It's an organic list of things that you need to focus on, right? It becomes not really a priority list. It becomes a process list. And that process, like I want to make that process list as minimal as possible. What are the 2 things that it takes to fire an accurate shot? I need to grip the gun in an effort to hold the sight still. And then I need to manage those sights visually all the way through the press of the trigger. That's it. Once I do that, I'll see every single shot, just like you did, just like Kent did, just like 12 other wonderful people in that class did.
Well,
shot calling.
11 other wonderful
Scott,
people.
Said, well,
hold on. 11 other wonderful people and Ashton Ray.
Dude, I have so many quotes from Ashton Ray. That was good. I wrote everything down.
We'll get to the humor section later.
My favorite.
I don't want to spoil the batter for the pancake fans at home, but like let's just say that there's some good stuff coming with that. Yeah, young, you are exactly correct. Now, yep, that's a thing.
Exactly right.
Yep. So, Zach, let me ask you a question about something again specific from class. Did you feel at any point in time that success in this class had anything to do with gear or equipment, or because this is another thing I've been asked about quote unquote competitive shooting teaching classes, is that guys have this viewpoint that there's going to be a bunch of $5,000 Wonder Blasters running around with magnets on their mag pouches and whatever else. Zach, you, myself, Justin, and at least a couple others were
I
running
think it was
guns
just us.
out of
Oh no, it was your 2 students.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're running guns out of regular ass appendix stuff. Just being people. Did you feel like your gear, your equipment choice, your holster choice, anything that you brought with you limited you in any way?
I assumed that at first. I assumed I was like, and me and you talked about it. I was like, I'm totally running appendix. Totally gonna do it just because screw them. And we ran appendix, and we were like, we're not really that far off from everything going on. And then we both ran rigs and belt and out of the waistband, all kinds of stuff. But there were some guys there that were running thousands of dollars worth of stuff. And I was running a Glock in the waistband self-defense rig. And I didn't feel, I guess because of the training I've done and what I've been through, what I've done, I didn't feel, I assumed it at first that I was like, I'm a fish out of water here. But then once I got into it, I was like, man, I'm just here to learn and shoot and have fun. And it didn't matter what I had. It was all about more about the learning. The class was more about the learning than it was about what you had. If I would have showed up with a high point, I would have gotten laughed at. Maybe made fun of later by Kent and Tim by a fire or something, but no, it was the gear and stuff like that. I felt comfortable and everything was good. What about you, Kent?
So here's what's interesting. I always find it funny how, regardless of the training circumstance, one of the first things you end up hearing people ask you about is like what gun or what gear they're going to run, right? Not to tell tales out of school or whatever, but before the show, there was a person who's going to be a student in my class this weekend coming up. One of the first questions is like, oh, I'm thinking of running this. Is that going to be okay? Now, I mean, the easy answer or the like cool guy gorilla answer is like, is that what you're going to have in the real world? Like you have to deepen your voice when you say it. You got like that whole thing. And
say it with your chest.
Yeah.
How do I sound more alpha?
Yeah. You should write what you can. Yeah. Like that thing. So you could do that. Or you could go, I'll be honest with you. You could take Tim's class with a fucking finger gun. Truly. And other than the Garcia dot drill, you'd be fine. And on the Garcia dot drill, you'd be like, I got 42 shots out. I swear I did. Like, other than that, like, I don't know what you'd be really missing.
That's
Right?
that's why. I mean, that's why in the course structure, right? As far as like the needs of the student are, obviously I want you to bring multiple magazines because you need at least enough gear to be able to shoot a 20 to 30 round course of fire, right? But as far as anything else, it doesn't need to be an outside the waistband race, rig. It doesn't need to be a trigger guard covered only race rig. It doesn't need to be appendix. It doesn't need to be, strong side. It can be whatever the hell you want to run. So, and it's great. When I very first started teaching, even 3.5 years ago, like obviously because of my background, the majority of folks that were coming to my classes were like-minded competitive individuals. So I was seeing a lot more, right, of just like that competitive type of gear, right? So Red Hill tactical holsters, CompTac holsters, Blade Tech holsters on a, inside outside, like an inner outer, Velcro type, inner outer belt system, some mag pouches and the whole 9 yards. And now, I mean, here we are, like I said, I mean, just a very scant 3.5 years later. And I have got whole classes at times where I'm the only dude and I'm the teacher and I'm the only dude, with an outside the waistband, and it's like my race rig isn't really even a race rig. I mean, it's a standard kind of double layer Kydex outside the waistband holster with friction retention. And, I'm not using any, go fast, awesome mag pouches. I'm just using outside the waistband mag pouches but it's what I also use in competition. But there's a lot of times I'm the only guy in my own class with an outside the holster. I mean, I've taught entire classes where everybody is running from appendix, and that shit's cool. You know, just to see that finally, like, folks' eyes are being opened up to like the importance of a lot of the information, right? And the relevance of the information I bring to the table to what they do in their own training or in their own lives, or what their own kind of paradigm is. And I think that's great. You know, it's absolutely awesome.
Yeah. The other thing that you'll find with people when they're stepping out of their comfort zones. Now your class was very much in some ways for Zach stepping out of his comfort zone to a degree. Even though, I mean, Zach is a no shit professional level firearms instructor who does this on a weekly basis, and yet here's a gentleman who, the minute you change up his worldview and ask him to do something that's just a little bit different, he reverts back to a level of discomfort that I think we all need to be cognizant is there for a certain percentage of our students, right? So the questions that come out audibly as, will this gun be okay? Will these mags be okay? Will this ammo be okay? Not to put too fine a psychological point on it, but the actual question that's being asked is, I'm not entirely certain of my surroundings that I'm about to be involved in. Right. Can you please validate me and make me feel comfortable in what's coming? Right. That's what the competent adult is actually asking you. They just don't know how to verbalize that question, or they don't know you well enough to just come right out and say, hey, is this really going to be okay? Or are you crazy? Or what are we actually going to do? Or
sure. And I obviously I'm hoping everybody sees I'm, you know, other than I know Young here on the messages said that, you know, like sometimes I'll get off on a rant like that, like in class too, about like the importance of training and things like that. But like, I want to be the most warm and inviting person I possibly can. So, I mean, if you are a brand new gun owner and you're like, hey, I just bought my very first pistol, you know, and it is, Jesus, a Sky, right? And I've got 3 extra magazines. I'm not going to tell you not to come. Like my job is to like, hell yes, I want you to bring that, because I'm going to show you how to run that thing better than you ever thought possible. I mean, you know, to take, for instance, and we had a young lady that was in our class there in Lewisberry who shot all of day one with a Glock 42 running 380, right? And she pocket carried 5 magazines or so with her to get through the course of fire and through the entire day one, you know, and she appendix carried a Glock 42 with standard 7-round magazines. And she shot like a boss, you know, and at first she was a little like, oh, I don't know, you know, like maybe the confidence level wasn't there by the end of day one. And then watching her like absolutely rail on stuff on day 2 was awesome. And I think she at the same time like found like what I'm truly trying to bring to the table. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what brand or what size or what caliber of whatever it is that you're going to shoot to class. I'm going to make you more confident and better prepared to make decisions behind whatever it is you bring to class. Period.
And to be fair, you were dealing with a level playing field, had the same capacity as a 1911.
Exactly.
That's pretty good. No, then the other thing we can all do, and then I'm gonna get back to asking Zach questions. Man, the first thing I do in that environment is somewhat of a sales takeaway, which is like, you want more guns? I'm gonna bring all the guns. If you think there's gonna be a gun problem, I assure you that it will not be a gun problem, because I'm gonna roll into class with a Pelican. Now it's easier for me because I do regional stuff. I don't have to get on no air.
I was gonna say, man, that's tough for me.
I know. But I brought the same Pelican to your class. You think for 1 minute, if you'd have had somebody who really had some shit was fucked up, I wouldn't have handed them 10 mags and something else and said, go for it?
Now, I'll be honest. Now, I bring the gun that I prefer to shoot on a class to class basis, and then I also brought my 24 round carry optics pistol to this last class I was just in San Diego this past weekend. I had a young lady who was shooting a CZ who unfortunately, like, man, those guns are really, really great, but without the proper trigger work with smaller hands, those guns are tough to shoot, especially in double action mode.
And a PO7 or something.
Yeah, she was running a Shadow 2, but that Shadow 2, even with a really trick trigger, the problem with the Shadow 2 is that the triggers in double action set so far forward of the grip that she had to literally roll her hand around the gun in order to reach her finger on the trigger to press the trigger. So even though she could press the trigger in double action once really, really good, the rest of her structure around the gun was completely compromised by the fact that she had terrible grip and a terrible structure built on the gun because of that. So the gun unfortunately did not fit her hands. So the great thing was like, I've got a better solution. It's right over here in this box.
Yep.
So fortunately she was running a holster that kind of centered everything on the flashlight, the weapon mounted light.
Yep.
So we were able to kind of throw her WML on her off her gun onto my X5, my SIG X5, and she ran my gun for 3/4 of the class, from like noon on day one all the way through the remainder of day two. I don't care. I mean, it was awesome that I was able to provide her the proper equipment so that she could enjoy the experience as well as understand like what I'm trying to teach and convey, and have her be able to execute it. I mean, the very first thing she noticed was like, yep, I'm going to have to do something about this trigger. And I was like, yep. And let me help you with where you need to go to get the proper trigger and the proper parts to get that gun to actually fit your hand. Am I one to say, hey, the gun needs to fit your hands all the time? No. But at the same time, I know, based on the fact that I'm also only, 5'6" on a good day, and I've got small hands, I know what guns I can run really, really well, and I know what guns compromise my structure and cause me issues. So they'll say, I really, really love this gun, even though I can't shoot it very well. I paid a pretty penny for this pistol. I'm going to keep this gun. It's like, well, then let us figure out a way to make that gun fit your hands so that you can get all of the advantages of said gun.
Yeah, out of curiosity, and not to get too far off on a tangent, I know we've still got a little bit more to talk about, but out of curiosity, I know obviously the CZs are a popular gun. Mm-hmm. Is there a way, and I'm a big fan of the Shadow line, the SPO ones, so on and so forth. Is there an aftermarket solution to bring that trigger distance back a little bit?
Yep.
So I was saying that's where I was going. Who do you prefer, Cajun Gunworks or Custom Shop?
Well, CZ Custom Shop, I believe, has a shorter reach trigger. I also believe that I know Cajun Gunworks, it's like a 50% reduction in reach for their SRT, or their short reach trigger system for them. So, like, I will not even own CZ unless, like, the very first purchase from the time that I buy, let's say, a box, Shadow 2 home, before I get home, the next phone call I made while I was at the gun shop is contacting Cajun Gunworks to order a short reach trigger set to be able to put in that gun so that I can make the damn gun work with my hands. Now, if somebody doesn't necessarily have a particular homage to one particular pattern of pistol, right? So maybe they bought the gun because they've heard defensively, hey, a double action, single action gun is better for defensive use than, say, a single action only or striker fired gun. I get people that render that warning too. So they buy I'm going to buy something that I know I can compete with, and it's going to be the Shadow 2. I will tell you that you can, the Beretta, even a Beretta like the 92FS or the 92X, which is more of obviously a competition version of it. But the Berettas do have, and the reason I know this is because I have a couple of them, and because, again, I'm small-handed, the Berettas are a wonderful double-action, single-action pistol that allow me proper reach on the trigger. And dare I even say SIG P226 or 229. If you want something else that's also a double-action, single-action pistol, granted, they've got heavy double-action triggers without doing some Gray Guns trigger work or something like that on them, but the initial reach on the double action trigger on the standard 226 or 229 will fit a smaller handed person and allow you to get a little more leverage on the finger without having to optimize your grip. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's other options out there. But, of course, everybody likes the blingy, shiny new stuff, right? And the Shadow 2s are great because you can get the Shadow Orange. It's got the really cool anodized orange grips. The Shadow 2 comes in like the blue grips. So everybody sees all the nice, bright, shiny stuff, but they don't, then they think, well, I bought the best I can get right out of the box. And they don't realize, oh, hell, the gun just doesn't fit your hands very well.
Yeah,
Let's make a couple alterations of the gun to make that gun work best for you.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's see, Mr. Zach. You want to hit us with some notes from class? I got some notes from class too. You want to bust some stuff out of that? Now look how happy Zach just got. Zach just puffed up like a pelican. He's like, yeah.
Well, first off, here's my little notepad.
Right.
But I wrote some things down. I won't read the quotes.
Why not?
Those, because they get a little dicey.
Okay. I don't think Tim said anything.
We got to leave the audience wanting more.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that at the end because it's like the ending to things. No, a couple things that he said, and I've got like 6.
Go ahead. Yeah,
I'll read a couple, and if you want to talk about it, cool. If not, cool. Don't push splits, push efficiency, which I liked a lot.
Good.
Stop telling and demanding the gun what to do. Ask the gun to do it. Another one was learning occurs by failing, pushing beyond limits. You cannot learn and grow by repeated success. The other one I mentioned earlier, fluidity and flow. That could mean 1,000 things. 1,000 things. And this is one that goes into it. Separate the upper body and lower body. Let the feet do what the feet are gonna do. Flow. Last one. Slowing down is not the answer. Slow down and do what? Slow down and continue making the same mistakes. Don't slow down or speed up. Be deliberate.
Awesome.
That was
Very
my
cool.
favorite, actually.
I like
So
it.
it's interesting. It's interesting what people
Great
what
notes.
resonates. What's that, Tim?
I said, God, he took awesome notes.
Right.
Jesus, Zach.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to
I
scribe,
got like 92 pages.
yeah, dude, you want to scribe in one of your classes, Zach's the guy.
That's what I'm telling. That's like Kent's
Appreciate
giving me shit the other day or a couple of weeks ago. When we were at the class, Kent's like, dude, where are you at on that book? You've been talking about that book now for like a year. And I'm like, well, I really need somebody to dictate everything for me. And it's
You might
great.
have half
So
of it
I
right
think-
here.
I think I found the person I need to just dictate and scribe everything that I say, and I could turn it into it'd be awesome.
Yeah, I can
Heck
see
yeah.
it.
Maybe
So
we could do a book
so
on
it's
tape
funny-
and have it narrated by like Morgan Freeman or something.
Yes.
I don't know. I kind of want Zach to narrate it.
I mean, no, wait.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I
Hold
could.
on.
Oh, Steve said Zoltan quotes. I gotta say something. Aesthetic accoutrement.
Aesthetic.
Zoltan.
You gotta add a little bit of French flair there. The aesthetic accoutrement. Yes.
Accoutrement.
Yeah,
That's
man.
perfect.
So within
Continue.
fucking 10 minutes of meeting Zoltan last year, he said the word pedagogy.
And used it
I
correctly.
used that like 3 times this year or
Yeah,
this
dude.
class.
Pedagogy is like method of instruction. I don't know what the hell's beeping behind me. Pedagogy basically means method of instruction for those playing the home game, but dude can just bust out some quotes. So here, I'll give you some notes that I have from this class. And it's funny how 2 people can take the same thing, but filter them through their own lens and what applies to them. And we'll see what folks think I might have a problem with based on what I wrote in my notes, because this is what resonated with me. This should be like, excuse me, I'll directly quote.
Shoot better than Zach.
No, well, that I mean, given, but besides that, Coming for you, big boy. No, so the thing that I said was, this should be like first person shooting. Duke Nukem. The gun's always fucking up. That's exactly what Tim said, right? Then I said gun up earlier. Then visual patience, but I put patience like a doctor instead of patience as in be patient. So there's that. Looking over your gun while transitioning. So I was like kind of doing maybe cheating a little bit on visual confirmation, looking for some holes to appear. Sight.
Give a quote on his validation for that one. That's a good one.
Sight picture versus sight movie, right? Ask the gun, don't tell. We both wrote that down. Over confirmation of the front sight is like using the smallest tool to do the most work. You would never dig a hole with a garden hoe. You would use the fucking shovel. See, unlike Zach, I put Tim's fuckings in where they actually were. So that's always. I think
I was waiting till the end for those.
I think maybe Morgan Freeman should narrate this book because Tim and Morgan Freeman say motherfucker about. No, wait, is that Samuel?
That's the other black guy. You racist.
Samuel Jackson.
Oh, come on. Excuse me. Yeah. All right. Whatever. The other old wise rich.
Side note: I do think that there is an interview where the interviewer did confuse Samuel Jackson for another black actor. It might have been Morgan Freeman.
Anyway.
Yeah. If you get a chance, worth a Google. Not saying you got to do it now, but
I'll stick to shooting. Any hooser. Over torque of the wrist. Forearm should be straight, as opposed to overly torqued forward. Tim did a demo where he had folks put their arm straight up and then grip that arm, versus trying to attack it with like an angular cant to accentuate the way that we approach the support hand. I wrote down on transitions, asked Tim about trying to see all three targets at the same time rather than bouncing eye from place to place, and Tim and I had a nice little aside by that. Support hand grip is better when you don't try to hurry transitions. Now, what's fucking terrifying is I took that note on July the 11th, 2021. Tim Herron, 2 weeks later, sent me a goddamn email where he called out a problem in my support hand grip. It's almost as though like things line up and are weird that way, right? And finally, yeah, right. Look at Tim over there. Yeah, I know. It's a thing. Finally, and I think maybe my favorite quote of the whole weekend: don't dig a hole you have to shoot your way out of. And boy, did I dig a hole I had to shoot my way out of on that one stage, right? Like everything went wrong. And I'm just like in the middle of my just fuck, reload, fuck, transition, fuck, trying to move, just all mad at myself. And I dug a hole I had to shoot my way out of. I walked off the range unhappy with myself. Ashton Ray looked me in the face and said, "Hey man, good job sticking with it." And what's funny how these things like kind of go around and come around. Zach and I and Justin were all in a med class that Ashton was hosting 6 or 8 months prior, maybe 10 months prior. And we did a force on force rep kind of where we were repping, producing medical gear and applying tourniquets to people and stuff like that. And in this rep, I ran out of shit. I ran out of med gear. So I just stopped doing things. I might as well just put my hand up in the air and went, "I'm done, coach. I got no more stuff." And from across the room, Ashton hollered out at me. He said, probably MFer. He probably gave me a motherfucker himself and said, "Hey, dude, try something. Do something. Push. Work through it. Find another way." And it's funny because up until that moment, I kind of thought I was that guy. I had that like the alpha gorilla feeling about my ability to push through adversity. And yet, when faced with some that I wasn't expecting, I faltered just to a degree. And it meant something to me that it came from Ashton, and it meant something to me that he was able to contribute and teach me a little bit in a class that he was kind of hosting. He just threw me a little dart, threw me a little nugget, and moved on. 10 months later, there I am at Tim Herron's class, just dropping F-bombs in the middle of reloads and trying to run through a stage, unhappy with my life. But what I must have done, what must have been apparent to everybody else, was this dude ain't stopping, and every one of them targets is going to get shot. And I worked my way through all the problems. I didn't stop. I didn't quit. I didn't give up, all that stuff. And again, there's Ashton to be on the sidelines like, well, the one benefit is that you didn't stop that time. It's amazing how these things just kind of circle their way back. I like the continuity and how it can come to you from multiple different people. It's almost as though the universe is trying to give you the same message, and it just comes from different people's perspectives. And yes, I honest to God believe that in some way the universe is trying to give you a message about some shit. I'll like say that right here. I don't know if it's Jesus or Buddha or whatever, but somebody was telling me, hey dude, don't stop, keep pushing, because I had to hear it from multiple different people in multiple corners of my life. That's pretty neat. And it's neat how training brings that out of you. So I shall unask my soapbox, and let me ask you, Zach, what was the thing that you took away from this class where you were like, just like the one earth shatterer? If I had to ask you to pick one, what like shattered your worldview? What was your thing?
Well, it ties into a couple things, but my favorite quote from the entire weekend was said directly to me from Tim, and he said, "Don't shoot like an asshole."
Yeah.
And I went,
"Oh, you broke it."
Yes.
I'm serious. He said,
I'm telling
"Don't
you,
shoot like an asshole."
I think that's going to be the next T-shirt.
And I went, "What does that mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?" And he walked away from me, and I was like, "Well, shit, I'm an asshole."
No.
Okay. But no, I totally understood it. And I was like, don't shoot like an asshole. Just shoot good. But
That's one of those things. It's like, if you can take the pebble from my hand, right? It's not meant. It's just meant to make you think, I guess. It's an earwig. It just kind of burrows itself into your mind and stays there.
At
no,
first,
he transitioned.
I gave a
Go
pretty
ahead.
good explanation of like what shooting like an asshole was, but I
Yeah.
definitely wanted Zach to chew on it a little bit first, right?
Yeah.
And so as the minute I got the deer in the headlights look from him, like I've got him, and that's what I wanted, right? So as an educator, so this is like, these are kind of tips and tricks and things that I use that I'm going to like parlay into like when we're doing the instructor development course, that these are the things that are important, right? Is how do you gain a student's attention, but how do you win their trust, even when they're not trusting you 100%. You know what I mean? And I think there were a few times that you were just, and I I'm saying this out of pure love. You are an extremely accomplished shooter, like hands down. Like, it was great because I could tell you, like, I could explain one thing to you once, and you were like, got this. And I mean, immediately put it to work. There were a couple of times, though, I hate to say it, and I'm capable of doing the same thing, and I do it quite a bit, where I almost kind of, for all intents and purposes, I don't know a better verbiage to say, like, you step on your own dick, right? It's kind of one of those, like, I'll show you how accomplished of a shooter I am. And when you start to try to think about, like, let me put ego above actually execution of my shooting, that's shooting like an asshole, right?
And fundamentals, and you're like, I'm just going to show, and you put it above everything.
Right.
It's like the professional athlete that feels like they're too good to show up for practice.
Yeah. Well, in that aspect of him telling me not to shoot like an asshole, yes, he came back and he actually stopped the class, and he explained a lot about it. But he said, don't shoot past your mistakes. Stop, fix them, move on. And which led into a couple other things of, hey, don't get in your own head about mistakes and all that stuff. And it was really good. And that was part of it. I was stepping on my own dick. I was so in my own head, and which is my biggest issue. For me, it's more of a mental game now. It's always been a mental game, but it's more of a mental game for me now. And
It's
that's
90% mental and 50% physical.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you guys want to hear a baby instructor story gone awry? So
Yes.
Do tell. Because
So
I think this would be a natural segue into Tim's instructor development class.
yes, that's why we're doing it right now. So Tim has a real good analogy about bending over and picking up brass off the bay and handing it to dudes and gals and going, "Hey, hold that for me. Hey, hold that for me. Hey, hold that for me." Cool, now draw your gun. And they're like, "Well, I got to drop all this crap first." And he gives you the old, like, exactly, you need to drop all your mistakes, let it go. It's like Elsa from Frozen. Young's over there, let it go, let it go. Like, you gotta drop the mental baggage so you can move on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a killer analogy. It's very good. I've kind of put my own little spin on it in some other ways.
Perfect.
Not with the brass and the thing. But my favorite baby AI guy, Mr. Justin, tried it on 2 private students that we were working with. And Justin did the following. He bent over on the bay, picked up a handful of rocks, handed it to the dude, goes, "Draw your gun." Guy's like, "What?" And dropped the stuff. And Justin goes, "Do you get it?" And walked away. No explanation, no context, zero delivery. This dude looked at me and went, "The fuck?"
Yeah, I don't get it.
Oh,
Justin
my Lord.
just like hammered it out. Like, he was like, "Mic drop," and walked away. And he's walking past me, like, waiting for me to be like, "Good puppy," and like give him a little
Good
ear
job.
scratch.
Like to give him the fist bump,
Right,
yeah.
anything. Like,
nailed
he's
it.
just looking at me, he's making eye contact, and he's seeing in me like, what? You know, and he looks at me and he goes, he stops everything. He goes, "Wait." And he turns around and looks at this guy and he goes, "Kent, you want to explain what just happened here?" I'm like, "Yeah, so let me tell you the story."
So don't dig yourself a hole you got to shoot yourself out of.
Don't dig yourself a hole you'll have to teach your fucking way out of. Jesus Christ. But he just, look at him. Like, I
wish I'd have been there for that shit.
Oh God. And he just, bro, we no shit. We got done class. We got in the truck. We're driving either back to my house.
Awkward silence the entire ride.
Right. We're driving. And Justin looks at me and he goes, now as astute and as very serious as Justin could be, he also he looked at me and he goes, "That's what happens when the girl from the Talking Pictures tries to play Marilyn Monroe. It just ain't as pretty coming from someone else." And I was like, that was fucking good, bro. See, you just made your own analogy. You don't try to use other people's. You just did a great job coming up with your own shit. And he's like, "God damn, did I botch that?" I was like, "But it's funny, even in the botching, fucking,
like he understood the context of what it was
clearly
what he was trying to parlay to somebody, right?
Yep. Right, clearly. He just missed the nuance or any explanation whatsoever. But what's so funny is now I got 2 dudes in my phone who I can text and I can be like, "You boys holding on to them rocks or how we doing?" And now it's this big funny joke among 2 students of mine who, I swear to God, they're going to get rocks engraved with like Justin's likeness on them or something and start handing them out.
Right. So it became, right. I mean, and it's honestly, I kind of took it up the brass thing. Right. And I think the first time I ever heard like sort of something kind of an analogy like that was back in my racing days with one of my like mentor instructors that kind of got me like involved in just teaching, period. Whether it was race car driving or whether it was shooting guns or things like that. The brass kind of thing, the brass thing is just kind of what it kind of evolved to for me. But it's kind of, again, it's another great teaching tool for you to be able to convey to your student the importance of letting things go, right? Like your job is not to hang on to mistakes. Your job is not to hang on to any preconceived notions. Your job is to simply draw a gun and just execute, right? Just do what you need to do with the pistol. make good decisions behind the gun. So I don't know. It's great. It's awesome. So we'll fix Justin's delivery a little bit, but
Right.
but yeah, and that's awesome when folks do kind of hang on to that, with the kind of letting the go of brass or letting the go of rocks and what that means. So yeah,
I like it.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Exactly. He just literally he skipped right to chapter 11 and was like,
yeah.
Yeah.
It was like reading the first 3 pages of the first chapter where you just get interested, and then he's like, "Oh, let me go ahead and read you the ending really quick."
Right.
Whoa, wait a minute. What happened to all the in between stuff?
It's that
I
shit you were
love
talking
him.
about earlier. He got the first 30 seconds of the video in the last 45 seconds. Fuck the middle. We don't need the
No
middle.
one,
My favorite.
no one reads past the subject line in an email.
You're right.
That's very true. That is very true. So let's wrap up tonight's show and talk about the upcoming instructor class and what people can expect differently out of an instructor class with you versus a regular old student kind of class.
Okay.
You
So
should tell me what I should expect.
Yeah.
well, I'll tell you
Keep
right
it,
now
yeah.
what both of you should expect. So what my 3-day instructor development course is right. The first 2 days are, of course, a lot of focus on just my 2-day program. Now, my instructor development course, so to speak, is not a textbook course on how to teach my curriculum or my paradigm. Okay. What my job is like, I'm going to give you the same 2 days of course material, just like I do a TD1, TD2, 2-day practical performance course with some extra stuff in there as well, right? The what's, whys, hows of things that I'm looking for as an instructor to a student, things I'm looking for that student to accomplish, ways I'm looking to appeal to particular students, ways I'm looking for, like, the things that I'm looking for in the student on how they perceive information that is presented to them, because everybody perceives information differently, right? Like I said, this isn't just a rote being ROTE rote course of just like, hey, here's a bunch of course structure. Here's how to teach this course structure. Good luck, right? This is why it says 3 days long. So the 2 days, we are probably not going to get through all of the material like we would on a typical 2-day class, because a lot of that stuff, right, the teaching aspect of it, like I'm going to say once, but then, like in a regular class, and have you kind of chew on it a little bit, right? And you're learning from that type of thing. And then you're learning from that type of thing. And of course, then we're moving on because we have to cover material. So the reason this extends into 3 days is so that we have plenty of time or ample time to get into the nuances of adult or human development, right? The what's, whys, and hows, the things that I have picked up along the way that seem to ring true to people. Like, why do certain quotes really hold true to a lot of folks? Why do other things tend to just go directly over their head? Why do certain people hang on to certain aspects of things that I teach them, and why do they not hang on to other things? So this is a two-way street. Actually, this is like a two-way interstate that's 5 lanes wide on both sides, meaning I want there to be just as many give and takes between folks that teach other people as well. I want to know your goods and bads and uglies and indifference. I want to know the things that you prefer or the way that you like to explain material to people. Because if I can make you, or if you can also make me a better communicator, then it's good for everybody, right? We all grow. So it's a very organic class. It's not like I said, it's not just a textbook class. Okay, we're going to work on an hour about how you deliver this. Okay, we're going to work on an hour about, like how to build course curriculum. Are we going to work on those things? Are we going to talk about those things? Absolutely. So the first 2 days are going to be about like my course curriculum, but I'm also going to give you all the ins and outs of why I chose to break down my course curriculum the way I did. Not because I want you to build your course curriculum exactly like me, but so that you have like the ins and outs and the thoughts of why you are building course curriculum the way you do. If your course development always seems like you're leaving a class and you feel like you're scratching your head on a way that, man, I don't know if that necessarily made sense, but I don't know where to fill in the blanks with that material someplace else. This, I'm hoping, will be the class to help answer those needs, right? So, and then that day 3 might be a lot more, I don't want to say standing around on the range, but there's going to be a lot more discussion. I want you to give me, right, like kind of the same thing, like a lot of instructor development courses are going to be. I want you to be responsible for teaching me or teaching a fellow student an aspect of something, right? And we're kind of going to go back down to basics again. Like, how are you going to convey in a 10-minute time frame what it is you want to teach to somebody that may have no understanding of what it is that you're trying to bring to the table? And it doesn't necessarily need to be shooting related. It could be anything. It could be teach me how to make a fucking peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It could be teach me how to pour a glass of milk. It could be teach me how to make a right-hand turn, or what are the rules of a road on a 4-way stop sign. It's totally up to you, right? But you better be like the goal of that basis of that 3rd day is to get you to understand the importance of context and the importance of good communication skills to somebody, so that you never leave them wanting or ever leave them scratching their head or ever have them leaving a class going, I just don't get it. I don't understand that.
Teach backs are super invaluable.
Yes. So this is, like I said, this isn't about course development. It's about all of those things, but it's about none of those things. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. It's funny. So what you just said was something that kind of just resonated. You said it could be about anything. Teach about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, teach about the right-hand turn, whatever. Zach and I had a moment on the first day we met that I just remembered that I regretted, which was we were doing some dry fire in my backyard. And those that don't know, Zach is a landscaper by trade for multi-gajillion-dollar homes, hardscaping, very, very high-end landscaping. And Zach began to explain to me some things about my lawn. And we're in the middle of dry fire. And I looked at Zach. I was like, homie, nobody gives a fuck about your grass. And we hammered right on with dry fire. And I, to this day, regret having cut him off because he was about to knowledge dump me and give me his version of how to teach. It was just about to be about grass because that's what he had a frame of reference for. I totally missed the mark. I missed the cue and I fucked it up. And ever since then, I've asked him now 1,000,000 times about his business and what he does and like taking an interest like a good friend does. But he will never have the same wind in his sails as he did the first time he had an opportunity to talk to me about it. It's funny how
because you asked me how to fix your grass, and I started, and you were like, I just put a bunch of fertilizer on it. I was like, all right.
Right. My point. Exactly.
All right.
We've never talked about this. We just did this live on the air. You and I've never, but it was a piss poor moment in my judgment of being able to learn something from somebody else unrelated to shooting. Right? Had not a fucking thing to do with shooting. We were talking about shooting. Therefore, I immediately discounted it as invaluable. Unfortunately, we all need to work on that. Maybe
But
do that. So
unfortunately, your graph looks like crap.
oh yeah, it does. Yeah.
Well, now hold on. At the same time, though, I think this is a teachable moment on both sides of it. Kent, from your point as the potential student or the proverbial student or the recipient of the knowledge, but also for Zach as an instructor to deliver and open up that message with the appropriate context and delivery that will make you want to hear more about what he has to say on that topic.
Absolutely.
I agree. And I wasn't doing the instructor thing very much back then when we first met. And if it were to have been, I would have read it differently. And I would have probably an hour later been like, hey, are you actually interested in this, that, whatever? And I would have tried a different way. But
Yeah, like don't cut your grass like an asshole.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't cut your grass like an asshole. But I never, it was different. I hadn't really learned a lot about adult learning theory and how adults learn and communicate as much as I have over the past year. But yeah, it's different
It is
now.
one thing that's funny is a lot of us focus pretty heavily on adult learning and adult communication skills, and then we fail to practice them in our own lives.
Yeah.
Right. Like we talk all highfalutin. We, on paper we're Zoltan. We're saying pedagogy and shit.
Yeah.
And then in reality, we might just be like, well, be less
No.
dumb. Like,
Well, here's the thing about adult learning, right? And so a lot of people are like, oh, adult learning is so much different than like elementary learning or child learning or child development, things like that. It's really not, right? So when you're explaining something to a child, right, that child doesn't understand like the level or what trust actually means, right? And that's honestly the ultimate difference between the two. A child will do whatever an adult tells them to do, regardless of who that adult is in their life. Is that somebody that I need to trust? Is it somebody I don't need to trust? No matter what, they're bigger than me, they're larger than me. Therefore, they are the authority, period. Right? This is why kids jump in vans with freaking people they shouldn't jump into vans with. Right? This is why we always have to teach our kids, like, hey, you say no to, you to strangers, you don't do this, you don't do that, because again, they don't have a development of trust. As an adult, honestly, the only difference I think between adult learning and child education is, first of all, you need to build a level of trust with that adult student, period.
Yeah, there's a level of skepticism that you have to overcome.
Always. And in everything that we teach them, if you're a really good instructor, and I would like to put myself in that frame. But all here, I'm sure teach our students or teach our children to question everything, test everything, apply skepticism to everything. Don't take things at face value, right? And it's one thing to teach that. It's one thing to express that to somebody. But you goddamn better have a why. Why should I not trust them? Why should I? So that's the thing about adult learning that's just a little bit different than child learning. Child learning is just like, basically the why is because I said so, that's why, right? You become the authoritative figure on that. But if you approach adult learning and you teach like an asshole, right? That teaching like an asshole is basically, there's one paradigm to do this. It's going to be my way. It's my way only. And you're going to do it this way. And then when the student says why, you just basically say, because I said so. Bro, you ain't teaching no more. You're commanding a presence on a range. Commanding a presence on a range versus being a coach or being an educator are two 180 different things, right? My job is if you happen to have that particular type of communication background or that type of communication character, how do we break through that so that you can better communicate and get on the same level with your student or with the person that you're teaching anything to? And it goes away from being just a firearms training class to a how do I educate people better class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can get teach me better on like cause and care and why I don't want to cut my grass to 1 inch of height, or why I need to water my lawn more than once a week, or why I need to do this or why I need to do that. Right? It's one thing for him to tell me these things, and I'll be like, well, okay, he's a fucking professional. I guess I trust that he knows what he's talking about. In this day and age, I'm going to look at him and be like, well, dude, because the internet has told me all of these other things, what makes your opinion better or more validated to me than those? So I want him to come with the heat. I want him to give me every reason. I want him to give me the whys. I want him to give me the reasons what for. I also want him to give me what I can expect if I do these things correctly. And then I want him to allow me to test him on that. Right. And it's predominantly, that's exactly how I try to focus my classes. When I give somebody an education on something, I don't expect them to take anything at face value. I always end whatever explanation or whatever lecture is going to be. And I'm hoping that Kent and Zach will hopefully piggyback onto this with their thoughts, or if they've got a different, maybe a different observation to tell me that. But I'm hoping that they also understood that, like I said, when I explained something to somebody, I immediately wanted them to go and test it. Test it right now. Do it right now in front of me. Do it right now, right? No once, no ifs, no ands, no buts, no anything else. I don't want you to think about it. I want you to simply approach it with this new context, and I want you to do it. That way, let you see the proof is in the pudding. I want you to test me. Sometimes they fail. Sometimes I get a student that goes, it didn't work for me. Excellent. That's awesome and okay too, because then it's not about me pushing my material. It becomes about me being an educator and being a diagnostician first and finding a solution that works best for me. If that doesn't work, let's try a different approach. If that doesn't work, let's try another approach. Your job as an educator is to have multiple solutions for a common problem. Your job is not to have the solution for every fucking problem either. It's impossible. If you think you've got all the answers, you've stopped learning. I don't want to take a fucking class from you, period. Because you are going to limit my ability to absorb information and make gains.
Yeah, that becomes a big problem. Young said it very well over here. Bad institutional training is like continuing the cycle of child abuse.
It absolutely is. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, if none of you guys have ever been, have ever had the opportunity to train alongside Young or to be in a class with Young, bro, homeboy's legit. He's an extremely smart and accomplished shooter. I will put, and Zach, you took a ton of notes. I got to say, though, I will put your note-taking against Young's note-taking any day of the week. Like, it's awesome to be in a like-minded community where there's, 6 or 7 folks that are probably listening to this chat that are obviously putting in information, and the 4 of us on this panel right now. These are the types of conversations I absolutely love to have. These are the conversations that kept, honestly, me and Kent and Zach up till like 2:00 in the morning on Friday night after I flew in. I can't get enough of this type of stuff. Where it goes beyond shooting and it goes to like cerebral stuff. Like, how do people learn? How do people pick up things? How do they retain information?
It's interesting when you apply the way that we approach this to other aspects of your life and you see gains. You see progress, you see victory. TJ and I both sharing that we really pushed the weight loss shit in this last year and change, right? We had some accountability to each other. And of course, he jumped way out ahead of me and was hammering down way better than I was in the beginning. So I've been playing catch up this whole time. But it's interesting how you can take a topic like that and you can approach it in the same way you're trying to approach learning how to do something else. And I will tell you, and this is something that Zach has done very well, and a lot of the other Tim, Southern don't talk rat Tim, and them boys have done a real good job of fostering in their organization is becoming a professional student. And when you work at becoming a professional student, all of a sudden you're real good at learning all kind of other shit. I only say that to say this is a two-way street, right? Like, Tim can be the most analogy-laden fucking brass in the hands, like sprinkle the brass like Gordon Ramsay, like with the salt, and then like do the whole like, you get it, bro, and walk away like Justin did, or you can do it right like Tim does. But if your mindset is not such that you are willing to receive, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice. And I say all that just to say, most of the people I know who are real damn good at teaching are also real damn good at studenting too. Peopling, right? Like those are the people who are students of something else in their life. And it's always neat to see the crossovers there. I like it, man. Well, speaking of midnight on Friday night, I mean, what are we doing here? Are we gonna just hammer for another?
Man,
I don't think so. I
don't
think
think ever
the gallon of water I've just chugged.
In the history of me being on the freaking Sling'N podcast, I don't think we've ever had a simple 1 hour or even like a short hour and a half brief.
TJ has to pee, guys. Go pee, TJ.
This was full this morning.
Wait, is there yellow?
This was full this evening.
Right.
Yeah.
I have too many.
Yeah. No. So I'm trying to spark myself back into a weight loss period. I'm trying to shed 10 pounds.
Me too.
Which is actually quite difficult when I've discovered through my weight loss that there's still a lot of muscle in there. So yeah. So fun factoid for those that are trying to take the weight loss journey. Fat is actually water soluble, and it is protected and contains a thin layer of essentially wastewater from your body, and wastewater from the fat cells itself. So when you hydrate, the whole drinking a gallon of water a day concept, your body is taking in so much fresh water that it promotes the expulsion of that bad water, that wastewater, along with the fat cells, so you actually can trigger more fat loss during your aerobic activity. So yes, I'm walking around like a gym bro right now, drinking a gallon of water a day so I can try to cut weight and be in a comfortable position before the World Championships in November.
Well, the other thing about too, of course, like the thing that everybody should know about drinking a lot of water or keeping yourself hydrated is not even just a hydration issue. It's that the level or feeling of satiation, which is the level of feeling full. You don't feel hungry if your stomach is always kind of fucking, I hate to say it, but like always wallowing around with an entire
yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. I would say that
I don't eat to eat, like I don't eat boring or when I'm bored. So
yeah, exactly. That's probably one of the biggest things. I've always been guilty of like the late night snacking.
Oh my God, I'm the worst. I'm the worst.
Well, and it's not even just bad food. Like I wouldn't go eat like a gallon of ice cream or anything, or a bunch of cookies or anything like that.
Shit. Okay, we're out there because I do.
I haven't in a while. All right, it's been over a year since I've done that. But I would challenge people. If you're feeling that craving, like what, I'm hungry. Go drink a tall glass of water. I promise you that craving will go right away, because the last thing you want to do is go to bed with that stuff resting on your stomach. Also, I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but for me, nightmares get the worst if I go to bed right after I've eaten.
Yep.
I will have some fucked up dreams.
That's a proven fact. There's actually science behind that.
So, yeah. Otherwise, let's get to the ad read so I can go pee.
Hold on. Real quick. I have a question. If fat is water soluble, how do you explain whales and hippos and shit?
That's a good point.
See?
They don't drink the water? They live in it?
Right, but that's
they are the water?
Look at Tim. Tim's like, I think that was funny, but he has a point. Like,
yeah, I'm like, God damn it. I don't need your damn dad.
You haven't hold on a second. Yeah. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You ever seen a fat fucking great white?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He looked into the camera on that one. Yeah. I haven't seen him look at the camera all night. He went. He looked in it. He was in it.
Oh God. Well, I tell you what.
Well, guys, this has been great. I'm hoping there's been a lot of good nuggets and everything on this 2 hour and 2 hours and 8 minutes worth of podcast. So
yeah, man, and we could do what's funny is like there's 20 more. Like I could take this 20 more places. Like we could just keep hammering, and we will, because there's plenty of episodes between here and there. And if you guys think for a minute that you've seen or heard the last of Tim or Zach, you're crazy, because we're gonna keep having smart people back on the podcast. which means I just done colleges, both smart. So there's that. But real quick, October 8th weekend coming up. The link is higher up in the chat. Tim is having his instructor development class here in Lewisberry. It's a 3-dayer. Jump in, let's go. Can't wait to have. We've got some good signups going. Love to have some more of you. Just for the point of clarity, you don't even need to hear Tim say this anymore at this point, but you do not have to be a professionally paid instructor doing that for a living to benefit from or take his instructor class. Okay? Like that's not the only thing. So if you want to learn how to learn better, you can come take an instructor development class from Tim. That said, you probably shouldn't just be learning to pick up your handgun for the first time ever in this here 3-day class. That's not what this is for.
I will tell you, just to kind of piggyback onto that too, I will tell you right now, my ultimate job or my ultimate goal of doing this professionally is to literally work myself out of a profession. Seriously. My job is not to hold back and give you just little bits of the piece of the pie and always be the dude that just knows just a little bit more than you. My job is to, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to a student or to a client at all if I'm not giving them 150% of myself and basically working myself out of a profession, whether that takes me obviously the rest of my life to reach the world to do so. I'll do it.
It's your job. It's your job to give them the recipe. It is their job to master it.
Precisely.
I've still got. It's because all the water I'm drinking. My brain functions are higher.
Yeah, that's that. There's that little lag in the Tim to TJ conversation. So they're stepping on each other. Sorry about that, y'all. Dudes, let's hit the ad read. Firstly, oh my goodness, thanks to all our sponsors. We appreciate all your help. By sponsors, we mean friends in the industry who help us do things. It's pretty cool. Thank you so much to Primary Arms. Thank you so much to our training partners. 2 of our training partners are represented right here live on this show. Tim Herron Shooting and Apache Solutions, Gunset Training, freaking MSP, all the different people. Sam DeSimone was on here tonight from Evolution Training Solutions. We mentioned Ashton Ray from 360 Performance. Speaking of working yourself out of a job, this damn podcast is like a rolling banner ad for everyone's training, which hey man, once you're done with all of them people, once you've gone and seen every one of them, come see Green Mountain Defense, and I promise I won't fuck you up too bad. That's about where we're at with that. Love to have you guys out at one of our classes. Green Mountain.
Don't you dare say that. Green Mountain Defense. Seriously, these guys run a fantastic podcast, and Kent is an amazing instructor. So if you're in on the East Coast side of things, right, and in Pennsylvania at all, please contact Kent. Either Kent will come to you or you can come to Kent. I'll be honest with you, Kent. And I told you this the other day on the phone, and I'm not just jerking your chain. You fucking work harder. I think I'm the hardest working man when it comes to training. You work harder than anybody I know. You carry a full-time freaking job, and then you're doing constant 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour sessions nightly, every single night, 7 days a week. It just please patronize this man and give him your business. If you want to learn, Kent is the epitome of professional student, and will give you 180% of himself to whatever it is he does. So honestly, as Forrest Gump would say, that's all I got to say about that. But it's the truth and it's from the heart. So seriously.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You know me though, self-deprecating humor is always.
You don't need it, dude. You're seriously. You're an amazing commodity to the national level training scene. So seriously, this is it. I mean, people need to come see you, just like they need to come see Zach at Apache.
Yeah.
I would like people to come see me, right? But I don't get to do any of this if not for building great relationships and great, like what I said, just great chain of events or chain of trainers with folks that I love to work with. So I've got to work with you multiple times, Kent. I've got to work now with Zach a couple of times, you know, at a TACCon, as well as, you know, him coming and taking a class. I mean, this is how this stuff is rolling. So if I keep doing what you're doing, I'll keep pushing people your guys' way as well.
Absolutely, dude. I really appreciate that. That was like, Tim just did a better ad read than we were going to. I think we should just mic drop on that ad read. TJ, I mean, this is like the opposite of Justin. Like Tim just dropped a mic on a real. This is fucking.
Yeah, it's really hard to follow that, but I'm gonna do my best.
Yeah, please try.
Do it.
So folks, as always, it's a pleasure bringing you this content every week. We're happy to have a lively and active chat. If you have questions, feel free to post them there. We love to engage with our audience. Remember, if you missed the live show, you can always catch us on your favorite podcast player. And if by chance you don't get a chance to drop a comment or ask your questions on the live show, you can find us on Facebook, Sling'N Led Podcast, or Kent or myself on Instagram. Our handles are in our little subtitles here down below. I'm the Lead Sling'N Ginger, and Kent is at Green Mountain Defense. Of course, you can follow Tim Herron at Tim Herron Shooting, and you can follow Zach Cox and the rest of the Apache Solutions crew at Apache Solutions on Instagram. Folks, that does it for us here this week. Of course, we invite you to go check out our affiliate links. You're going to go buy gun stuff anyway, so might as well contribute to our affiliates. That gives us a little bit of kickback and allows us to continue to bring you free content on the regular. Until we see each other again, God bless you all. Take care of each other and get out and shoot.